Breakfast and Combos. I am Liberty, and we've got
T at Deola. We've got a great show for you today. And before we get into it, we want to thank everybody for watching us online.
Nice. Yes, we are excited. Like before we get live, we'll come live to you. We have our pre-production and getting everything ready, and which hopefully you've been watching us. This is episode number 3, and we just keep putting it out and up leveling the production, the content. We've got a guest today.
Yep.
Super excited about Shila Burney, who will be with us, and it's going to weave into our topics of just overall us talking about how COVID-19 has impacted lower income families in addition to women in business. And we're going to round it out with you. That's what we've shared with you on some of the episodes that we really want to help those, since we are broadcasting on LinkedIn Live. So thank you everyone who's watching, and of course our replay viewers. But that we also want to make sure that when we see jobs or people who are looking for work, that we feature and highlight you as well. So go ahead, say good morning wherever you're watching. It's LinkedIn Live. We're multicasting. Good morning. And T, let's get right into it because we have a jam-packed show.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff in this episode. I'm really excited. So something that COVID-19 has laid bare is the digital divide. And it is it's just really kind of mind-boggling. So there are a lot of stats that we're going to pull up for you and sort of rifle through, but we'll have all of that in the show notes. So 12 million students do not have broadband access, according to Common Sense Media. And a lot of the school apps and a lot of the, things that they use for schoolwork can't be done on a smartphone. So you either have to have a tablet or you have to have a laptop. And of course, you need broadband access for that. And if you don't have broadband access, then you can't do your work. And that is really that's hitting the lower income especially hard. So Liberty, I'm not sure if you can bring up the Common Sense Media article, but 4 out of 10 students have not attended virtual class since in-person classes have stopped. So that's 40% of kids that haven't done that. And the discrepancy is even bigger between public and private schools. So 47% of public school children have not attended class, whereas only 18% of the private school students have not attended class. Yeah, that's the YouGov study that we're referencing. And if you live in a household that makes $100,000 a year or more, 66% of them have work from home policies. Right. Okay. So you're good. You can do like we're doing right now. You can be on your laptop and you can do all your work online. Whereas if you live in a household that makes less than $50,000 a year, only 18% of them have work from home policies. So huge discrepancy there. And a lot of folks who have higher paying jobs have sick leave. 68% of households that make $100,000 a year have paid sick leave, whereas only 31% of lower income households do. And 40% of Americans that make less than $50,000 a year would exhaust their savings within 2 months if they lost their jobs, whereas households that make above $100,000 a year, they would last up to a year. Their savings could last a year. So that's a really wide discrepancy. And if you wanted to jump to the NPR article, this one really hit me right in the feels because it talks about how children recover with disasters and how the disasters affect the kids. Right. Okay. And so Doug Harris from Tulane University, he studied Hurricane Katrina's effect on those kids and found that it took 2 years, 2 full academic years for those kids to catch up.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And it's and last thing before I kick it back over to you, the study also found that children in lower income neighborhoods, this is going to decrease graduation, increase dropout rates and decrease college enrollment rates, because these are the kids who are going to be called upon to get jobs. They're going to have to help support the family. They have little siblings. Like, look, you're 15, you're 16 years old, you're old enough to work, so I need you to work. And it's it's disproportionately going to affect that population. And so, you know, not all doom and gloom though, because the why we're bringing this up, we're not bringing this to bring it down. I promise. I
Right.
promise we're not bringing
Right.
this to bring it down. But you have to name the issue before you can correct the issue. And so I'm really excited to speak to Shila in a few minutes after we talk about your points. But we say all of this to say we're on it, right? Like we're doing our part as best as we can. We're bringing you this information. Please share it with your network. Hashtag breakfast and combos. Let us know if you've been negatively impacted, and we will bring you, we'll highlight you on the show, like Liberty said. And we're all about collaboration. We're all about sharing. And so I don't want you to get the wrong idea. Like, why the hell did I come on this morning show? This man done brought me down.
No, like you said, this is important. This is information that we need to discuss. And earlier this week, there was, as a woman in business and entrepreneur, there are grants that we know about some of the SBA loans and the emergency funds. And I received a rejection letter. It was like my second one for there were 3 grants that I applied for. So this was the second one. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to share this with the community, posted it on LinkedIn because, people see our wins, but also the importance of, I'm right there with you. Like we're trying as a woman in business. And as you said, it is disproportionately affecting Black women of color, with regards to how much funding is actually getting into our hands, which is why, when you have companies like Shea Moisture and We Buy Black, who came together and put together a fund so that they could make sure that money got to women like myself and London. And I wanted to make sure that I pulled her up because I saw that she received funding, which is, women supporting women. So making sure that we salute each other. But when you look at the statistics that show of small businesses overall, at 40% of the population in the US, that only 20% of them being women, like that, there's a disproportion there of how many of us are actually getting that funding. And as you said, like we have a few minutes before Shila gets in to just talk about the work that she's doing with the Zane Venture Fund, because as we say this is not just an issue that is affecting underserved communities. This is a global issue, a global pandemic. But if you have a population that has been rapidly growing in the past 3 years, women and Black women are the fastest growing group of small businesses.
No doubt.
And when you see that the number, while being the fastest growing group, we're not hitting that $1 million mark. Like it's very, very small and
Not
in
at all.
between.
Yeah.
So yeah. And if anything, getting as close as possible to like 100,000, 100,000 K. And when you see those numbers, you have to ask yourself, like, how are these businesses going to survive? How are they going to
Exactly.
sustain themselves?
Yeah, it's weird. Like you said, it's weird. Like the funding stats coming out of Y Combinator are shameful. They are not to put Y Combinator on the spot, but like,
Not at all.
and for those of you who don't know, Y Combinator is like a major tech fund out of Silicon Valley. But the number of, and they've received flack in the past, and to their credit, they're trying to address it. But basically, it's the same old boys club. I mean, if you look at the startups that they fund, like an Uber, like an Airbnb,
Right.
I think it's less than 2% of Y Combinator's funds goes to minority businesses. And it's worse, to your point, it's worse for female businesses. I think Y Combinator only funds like 0.2% of Black females. It's ghastly. It's just gaslight. There's no other way to put it. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, and again, this ain't about throwing shade. This ain't about
at
being
all.
that. This is just like, listen, we got an issue, and we need to talk about this because
Yeah.
it's not going to go away on its own.
And that's why when you see people like Catherine Finley with the digital undivided coming to create, and it doesn't, every little bit counts. So it doesn't have to be another $10 million fund, which of course we appreciate all of that money. But when she created a fund, the Dooney Fund, you have women, the last statistic I saw, which I believe was April 20th, that of the fund, it was 191. They gave away 191 grants, and these were micro grants, anywhere between $1,000 or $500. But then that over 3,000 people applied for micro grants, like just
Mhm.
trying to find funding any way that you can. Because what this funding does for us is that is a lease for those companies or those places that they're still, asking, rightfully so. We're all running a business, but they still require rent or
Mhm.
maybe utility bills or even, your staff. And this was another point that I wanted to bring up as well. I have, and I thank God for my network and the other women in business that are out there, even just my friends who, when they would see these opportunities, that they would share them, send me some DMs. And it was the Sarah Blakely was one of those funds. I don't recall the name of it right now. I have to go back while we're talking to Shila. But to see that, okay, great, there's this fund and there was all this news, and I'm a part of the Atlanta Tech Village community, and they're just in them sharing them. And as you go through filling it out, on the back end, the last thing that it says, or towards the end, that was my only critique of the fund, is that you have to have at minimum of two full-time or two full-time employees. And when you look at the women, minority women, we primarily, it is contractors
Yeah.
that we have. So that automatically kicked me out of any possible funding there. Great initiative, great initiative. But a lot of these major funds, even with Facebook put out a fund and signed up for all of these, and just that stipulation. So for myself, and I'm excited about Shila coming on, I'm excited to see how do I need to prepare for the future? And I'm sure there are many other women in business that are thinking those same things, like cash flow. We understand that cash flow is everything. Cash
Yep.
flow is queen, I will say.
Yep.
But this is a learning lesson for all of us. All of us.
Absolutely. And there, like you said, there's no time like the present to get it right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's what it's all about. And that's why we're talking about this. No time like the present to get it right. So I hope that in this morning, you were able to stick with us, didn't get you too down. Because don't you worry. We got that fire coming for you right now because Shila does not disappoint. So,
Right.
Liberty, I'll kick it over to you.
All
Let you
right.
introduce our guest.
That's it. So I'm going to bring in Shila Burney with the Zane Venture Fund. Good morning. Good morning,
Good
Shila.
morning.
Morning. I have been wanting to jump in every time you guys said a point that I totally agree with. But thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to join the conversation.
Yes, and we're just going to dive right in because
Okay.
as you've heard us, T shared just how COVID-19 is impacting low income families, impacting students. I know even speaking like my daughter, that in her class, even seeing some of the teachers make comments that if you're able to get online, like they acknowledge and they're aware of the fact that there are many students, and she's in kindergarten. There are many students who do not have access to the internet, working Wi-Fi, acknowledging companies like Verizon, who I know that I've received notifications where they've upped their public bandwidth so that people can get on. But let's get into Zane Venture Fund and how you even got into this space.
Sure. So about 2 years ago, I transitioned to full-time entrepreneurship and wanted to stay on the same path that I had been on in my career. And that was more like project management and organizational support. So started out and I had 6 clients right away.
Okay.
Doing really well, only 3 months in. The other part of my work was also curating these experiences for women,
Okay.
where we would have empowerment sort of events. So fast forward to March 2018, and then I get approached by someone who knows that I'm really good at connecting and wanted me to source investors for a startup that was based in New York, but the actual company was ran out of Cote d'Ivoire.
Okay.
And so I got really excited. I had never been in the space before in terms of venture. And then just research my behind of trying to figure out why there was such inequities in terms of who got funded and who didn't. And really notice that we, in record numbers, I mean, the data, it's so, in terms of how bad it is, Harlem Capital put a report out 30 times, white women got funded 30 times more than Black women, Latina women, Asian women. And I mean, that was such a stark number. And that was just a recent report, but just seeing all of that sort of data and going, there's a problem here. And I'm sure people are trying to solve it, but from the folks I'm talking to, either we're not moving fast enough, we're not getting to enough tables. And so I decide after a very tragic incident, I'm sure you guys heard about my daughter being both of us being sort of impacted in a neighborhood where, she was a victim of gunfire, just driving through a community that I assumed was safe, but found out later it was one of the 26 worst neighborhoods in the country, not just Atlanta, but the country. And so the conversions, let me fast forward a little bit. So I ended up getting this guy to a $5 million letter of intent with no experience. Just mainly me connecting, talking about the investor, how great he was. I'm sorry, the founder and the company and that sort of thing. So got him to a $5 million letter of intent, had this horrific incident with my daughter, and decide like these two convergence, I got to do something, right? I could go back. I could have went back to my comfy home in the suburbs and just, took it easy, not worry about this client or the community. But I decided to do something, and I decided to launch my fund. And that was in late 2018. I spent last year traveling the country in rooms where we're typically not. But let me let you guys know, there's so much money in those rooms. I was in New York in meetings where people were talking about $200 million funds, $500 million funds. And I'm like, oh, I'm only talking about $10 million.
Right.
Just let me know the breadth of money that's out there and who it's going to. And so this past fall, I launched the fund. We have our lead investor. We're out fundraising now. In spite of COVID-19, people have said, hey, you have a great thesis, keep it moving. Don't double down and definitely keep it in front of folks. And so that's how I'm here now. Just pure, wanting to connect the dots, bring investors and founders together and get companies funded that deserve to be.
Right.
Absolutely.
There was something interesting that you shared while we were going through our technical walkthrough yesterday of just that you thought that in the midst of COVID-19 and everyone just how many of us are feeling that you would just lay low. Can you tell that story? Because I think that's significant for those who are watching. Thank you again, anyone who is watching. I see that we've got James Oliver here online watching us on LinkedIn. So hi, James. But that story is significant to what we could be doing right now.
For sure. And if I'm remembering correctly, was it the story related to just how,
not going out to fundraise, like thinking this wasn't the right time.
Right. And so, and especially if you had already started fundraising, I definitely would have, like for those folks, I suggested to get right to the term sheet, quickly get things going to get the wire. But in terms of me, so, I was a little apprehensive about asking folks for money. We're in such a situation now where, all of us are sort of stuck in a space. And so for me, we had a Zoom call with some women. And, I was like so down, like I feel bad asking people for money when we're in a situation like this. And they were like, no way. You have something that investors are looking for right now. They're looking for a shiny object, right? Everything is so, we're in such a dire situation. They want to see something, that looks good and could move our country in a certain way. Something innovative, and because our fund is different from all of the other funds, we're bringing these two folks together.
Right.
They were like, you have a great thesis, go with that. And so we just move fast forward ahead, and we're continuing to do that. I've had these calls with, there was all white men, 6 white men who grilled me about it. And it's great to have that because that's when you can show who you really are. And I was like, this is important. but I wasn't doing a good job of showing what the market looks like, right? I have all the data in there, but I need to let these investors know who are not reading the same reports that I'm reading, which are a lot of diversity and inclusion and equity reports. I needed to do a better job of showing them the breadth of founders out there who fit our thesis, which is diverse founders. And so we had to tear up our deck and go over again. And so now we're back moving forward. But in these sort of times, if you have to pivot, do what you have to do, but don't lose sight of why you're here. I'm here to solve a problem. And so, and COVID is another problem, just happened to be on top of my problem. But, we have to keep moving forward, I believe.
So quick question, and thank you for sharing that, because, and I love how you turned your pain into power and are using your platform and your voice to get in those rooms. So when you're in those rooms with those 6 white men, can you talk a little bit about how you navigate that space from a narrative standpoint, meaning like, what you're there to do, and how you're there to accomplish, but how do you show up in that moment so that you're like, oh, well, God damn, I'm being grilled like I'm interrogated like I'm a criminal. What did you use, and what could you give the audience to help them show up in those spaces and be bold like you are?
Okay, but that's who I am. So going into that room, I'm not going to shift and become some pious person, right? So I'm bold, I'm confident, and I'm in the room. So there is no way for me to start shrinking away. And I'll give you, this is a small example of, it was just some society event, and, I was waiting to speak to a speaker who was telling me about how great his fund was doing. It was a social impact fund, and we were looking at social impact at the time. And so I waited patiently for him to stop speaking with someone else. When I tell you I was swarmed by these other men who, I was basically invisible to them. I'm a 5'11" woman. I had heels on that day. There's no way you could not see me. Right. And so I could have easily said everything, but what I did is I reached my hand out to the person that I was waiting for to let them know I'm next, and you can wait until we're finished. Absolutely. But I have to have the confidence to be able to do that. I'm in this room for a reason. I can't shrink away because now all of a sudden they're all white men in suits, and I'm this Black woman, but I have a purpose of being there. I'm there just like them. I came to get this information, and I left with that information. I was not going to let them stop me from that. And so I think it's important to know who you are, right? No, I don't come from a wealthy family, but I'm very confident in the work that I've done over the past years. And so I go in with that. Yeah. And I feel very confident. I don't feel like I'm not supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be there.
Absolutely. Right? Do you feel hostility? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just like that I used to play basketball. So she's oh no, I've got next. I've got this.
Right, absolutely.
You have to step right in.
Right. You do.
Right. Minus the intent of it. I guess my next question was, did you ever feel any hostility in those rooms? And if so, I know you just said that you're big and you're bold, but how do you, I guess what I'm trying to get to is, it's one thing to say show up. It's quite another to be able to give somebody something that they can use to, still stay on course. So have you ever gotten a feel or a vibe from one of the white men where it's like, I
have not, and I'm not saying, unless I'm just so naive, I didn't see it. Yeah. But I did a program at the University of Michigan with the Berkeley School of Law. So they had a venture program there. And so same audience, it may have been 2 other Black women and maybe a few white women. And so my thing is, I want to hear. I don't want to sit in the back of the room and act like whatever, trying to shrink away. I go straight to the middle of the room in the front, and I want to be able to hear. What I found is, if you're true to what you're doing, people want to help you. So in that program, and I'm still connected with these young men. Both of them are at funds, analysts or associates at funds, and they have sent me deals, right? So we found a way to, we're all in here to learn about venture capital, but at the same time, once we leave this room, we still want to be able to have a community. And so I don't know these guys from anywhere, but they felt like they could, that they had some deals in their pocket that fit the criteria we were looking for. And so they've been sharing them with me. So I've not felt it. Again, I'm not even focused on it. I'm focused on why I'm there, who I'm there for. and everything else can fall to the side until it's over. But I mean, that's just been my life story. I've not been afraid.
Right.
And that's why if we talk like, that's why you were called to this. Like you were drawn to this. You saw a problem. You went ahead and hit it straight on. And James Oliver, again, he's here chiming in saying, keep moving forward. Yes. And amen. So if you are just tuning in, you are watching Breakfast and Convos. I'm Liberty. We've got my co-host T, and we are speaking with the phenomenal Shila Burney from the Zane Venture Fund. And I do want to get to you recently. Not only have you guys updated your website, but you've released a new program, which the timing for this couldn't be more perfect.
Right.
Talk to us about the program. Who is it for, and how can people get involved?
Sure. So it's called our pre-capital program, and the goal is to get those founders who do have some revenue, who have some traction, has an MVP in the market, and maybe some customers, right? And so the idea is to get those companies capital ready. So they go through a 12-week program through every aspect of their business, and we have our managing director, Marguerite Presley Davis, who's running that. She is a Wall Streeter working at Goldman, having worked for some other major houses in the Clinton Global Initiative. So she is so passionate about making sure, and she's a founder herself. She exited her company and sold it a few years ago. And so now she went through that entire process and was able to, learn a lot. And so she wants to now pay it forward to other entrepreneurs who are going through that process. So that's kind of where we are. Program, we're taking applications right now. And I was going to say, let's go to zane.vc. That was our temporary site.
Oh, yeah. We've got you. That's what we were saying this morning. We said we're so excited because we want to make sure that even as we're speaking, that people can even connect and see and learn more about your program. And I know James is into this conversation, and he's got some questions. So you can keep going. And once his questions pop up, I'll jump in with it.
Sure. So folks can go to our website, zane.vc/founders, and see the application there and apply. We will be doing a rolling sort of process. So folks will, know in a week or so if they've been accepted to the program. We have some partners on board who are gonna help us sort of curate and then execute against this. And so we're really, really excited. The one thing that was important to me, Liberty and T, was that when I first got into learning about venture capital, it wasn't just capitals that founders needed. Most likely in the beginning, they didn't need that capital. They needed resources. They needed to know who to go to when they had a problem about this, that, or the other. Who in their neighborhood could assist them in their community could assist them with helping them build and scale their business. And so that's why it was important to me to not only raise capital and eventually deploy that capital, but to also create this community for founders to be able to go to and find the resources that they need. We're going to have vetted experts that they can have access to. All of that is on our website. It's been very intentional. It was a labor of love. I wanted to make sure people came there and felt like it was for them. It wasn't for us. It's for the community that we intend to serve.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so we're really, really excited about it, and just really hope that people found it very useful for things they want to know about Zane.
Awesome. So what is, and this might be premature, but okay, so still waiting for James. And James, if we don't get you on this, because we're about to close out, please still leave your comments. And anyone who's watching the replay, go ahead and leave your comments and we will tag Shila. You see that she's a wealth of information, but then also just being compassionate. Like, this is a mission that COVID-19 is not even going to stop you,
Absolutely
Shila.
Not. It almost had me, but I decided, no, you can't win. I went through the last recession. We all did, of course. And I remember sitting on my sofa thinking at that time, what can I do right now? Right. I had a great job. I wasn't impacted in terms of my home or anything like that. But what could I do? And I didn't move on any of that because I really wanted to heavily invest at the time. And
Okay.
so fast forward, we're in this other crisis, and I just start thinking about what came out of 2008, 2009, all the companies that had been, sort of created because of it, the gig economy, that sort of stuff. And so now I'm thinking the same thing and advising founders and entrepreneurs, be creative right now. Think we're gonna have some sort of global crisis at some point again. How can your business survive that? How are you prepared? And as a fund, I have to think the same way. And so that's what I suggest to everyone. We shouldn't double down. I'm sorry, we shouldn't shrink away. We should focus on what we can do to make it better, and come out of this, on the right side of history. So yeah.
That's it. You went right, and you could read your mind. And thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie Diaz is in the chat. Thank you. So thank you so much. Because even Stephanie, if I recall correctly, she is one of your advisors for your fund. How important was it for you what did it take to build that team of people around you so that, you can focus on your task at hand, but then even cover some of your blind spots per se?
And that's exactly it. So I decided, like, I know what I know, and I'm not going to walk around pretending what I don't know, speaking language that's not familiar to me. But I know that if I'm consistent and I do what I said I'm going to do, that's attracting to folks. And so everybody who's on our team brings something different, something that I don't necessarily have as a skill. But not only that, these are people who are also community minded. They're doing great work in the community as well, in terms of working with entrepreneurs and founders. And so it's just great to have Stephanie. We have Martina Edwards, who was the first Black woman trader for Merrill Lynch. So, Sig Mosley, the big fish that we caught, and
Godfather of, is that what they call him? The godfather of investing in Atlanta?
The godfather of angel investing in the Southeast. Yes.
Wow.
And Sig said no to everybody back in the day, but he said yes to us. And so we have been very, very appreciative to have him. And then we have some other folks that fill out our team with business expertise, design thinking, that sort of stuff. These are things that when we have our portfolio companies, we have a well-rounded team of advisors who could mentor them and help coach them through whatever issues that they're going through. So that it was all very intentional. And diversity is our number one strength, right? We bring diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, and we're all diverse. And so I'm a Black woman with a Puerto Rican dad. So I don't bring the Latino lens with me. But, we have other folks on our team who could. That was very important to me, that the representation.
Awesome. And so I see that James has popped his question in here, and he said, and we'll close out with this question of, would you like to he'd like to get your advice about the most efficient way to raise money. Let's read it on this side. Yeah, the most efficient way to raise money to start his foundation to give grants and resources to people who are parents and entrepreneurs. So James Oliver, he has a book, and he's avid on being a parentpreneur and what that looks like. So it looks like he's trying to work through his business model. So what would you say is the best way to raise money for that?
So you got to find wealthy not wealthy foundations, but foundations, things like that are interested in solving for whatever issue you're focused on. If it's parenting, there are funds out there who are looking for organizations to fund organizations that are focused on parent education, that sort of stuff. So you gotta research. It's important to research for the right type of investor. If you are focused on something like this, which is social impact, you don't want to go to someone like Elon Musk, who's focused on SpaceX and that sort of stuff. You have to find the investors that's focused, that's looking to solve that particular issue by funding it. That's the best way. In terms of venture, that is not a venture product. There are some social impact funds you can go to.
Okay.
But there are some things you're going to have together. You can't go like that's your first step. I'll go get fundraising, then I'll start the business. No, you start the company and then you go fundraise, because they want to be able to see that there's some traction, there's something there before they start writing checks.
All right, James. So there you have it from Shila Burney with Zane Venture Fund. And what is the deadline? Like, how, again, people can go to the website to apply for the pre-accelerator?
Yes, it's on our website. I believe the deadline is May 14th, but please don't quote me on that. I know it's on the website. But as again, we're having rolling applications, so folks can continue to apply until the deadline, and we'll do an announcement, I think, late May of the cohort. And so we're really, really excited about it. We've got some applications already in queue. And I think folks are excited about just the opportunity to be able to sit. We don't have a big sponsor that's doing this for us. We have great people who've done the work. And so we're just excited about what we put together and can't wait for those who are going to participate to see what's ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shila, for joining us this morning. And we will update our show notes and definitely continue to share it out with the community, because we're both connected to a lot of people who could benefit from this.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey. And women like you make me hopeful, which is not a small task. So hats off to you and congrats. And, we wish you continued success on all of your endeavors.
Oh, thank you so much, T. I appreciate it. And thanks so much, Liberty. It was great being here. Have a great rest of the day. I thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Wow, T.
Yeah.
Like
that was one for the books.
Right. It just, okay. How do we follow that? Of course, we follow it by thanking everybody who is watching. Again, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, James. Anyone who's watching the replay. And time went by really quickly today.
Yeah, I could listen to her for hours, and I probably will at some point when I make it back down to Atlanta. But yeah, that was dope. That was dope.
That's it. And this is a great segue into just some of the opportunities that are out there right now. And so while Shila was talking to us about businesses and entrepreneurs, and I want to make sure that I pull this up so we can get into LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I saw that there was like MailChimp, that's where we do our mailing list. We've now got a mailing list for people to join, but they are looking for a creative director. And I want to make sure I can pull this up so that folks can, and I probably don't want my chat window up there. There we go. Yes. So they're looking for a creative director for their brand studio. So I know that you're the marketer, the digital marketer, the one mailing lists. Those are your jam.
Absolutely. I love email. I did email for Acco Brands for almost a full year. And for all of the fanfare that social media gets in terms of bottom line revenue, email is the perennial heavyweight champ. So it's right there, folks. You see it. We'll queue it up in the show notes, and I'll also share it out with my network. But yeah, if this is up your alley, nothing bad to say about MailChimp. It's highly respected, very widely used, and it's a very good fit for a lot of small and medium-sized businesses.
Yeah, very much so. So folks, they've got 48. So these are not just Georgia-based, but 48 jobs on their website and on LinkedIn specifically, since you're watching this on LinkedIn. So go ahead and check them out. I saw some positions for UX designers. And of course, this one here, where it is for their brand studio. And MailChimp made a great pivot a few years ago, where I should not necessarily pivot, but in addition to their catalog, that they realized they needed to double down on video. So they started doing micro video series, which phenomenal. So this being the creative director for their brand studio, I'm like, hey, MailChimp.
Right. Hello. How's it going?
Hello. Yes. And then also this weekend, there is Product South. So they're doing a virtual tech conference. So you are aware, luckily for you, you got a chance to go to Social Media Marketing World. You were at Startup Grind. So you got in a couple of the big heavy hitting
Content Marketing World, not Social Media Marketing. Content Marketing World. Shout out to Joe Palizzi. Yeah.
That's it. And then also Startup Grind. So you got to be in the mix. And now, while a lot of people are on lockdown, as we are, is that they're hosting this, and shout out to Lily for sharing it and letting me know about it. And I said, okay, this is definitely something that our audience would be engaged and interested in, because this is a great opportunity and it is free.
Can't do better than that. I mean, there you go. That is the price that wins.
Right. And it's happening on May the 2nd. So if you are interested in learning more about product, again, we'll put that in our notes. But connect. There's already 242 people signed up to participate. So if you're looking to grow your network, you're looking to learn more about the product space, this is definitely a place that you want to be.
For sure.
Awesome. So we've got into it. So you want to run us down, because you kicked us off with the stats, and that's what I love. You caused me to level up my game and making sure that I come with the stats as well.
Listen, like, you intimidate me, but in the best way. Let me just say, because the production quality of the show over a very short period of time has just been phenomenal. So I got to show up just so that, I can be in your space. And so I thank you for that, because yeah, this is something that's needed. It's something that is just a joy to be a part of. So I'm glad that I can play my teeny weeny, part in
Collaborate.
it. Yep.
That's what it's we've been every show we bring that up, is like the collaboration that it takes place to bring together, especially in these times, to bring together quality experiences, because that's what it is. Filling
Right.
that gap of this. Look at these people that are up at 7:15
Right.
in the
Chatting
morning.
with us. Yep. And I love it. And last thing I'll say before we jump off is don't be discouraged and be hopeful, because that's what I personally took from Shila. Like, Shila got me ready to run through a wall or something, because, like, I'm not about to walk over no hot coals, because I don't do that. But Tony can keep all that. But I'll punch through a wall, because, like, nothing is going to stop her. She has her purpose, and she's going to be in those rooms. She's going to show up. She's attracted the creme de la creme in a very listen, man. Listen, all I got to say is be hopeful. Be hopeful. Don't be discouraged. It will get better, and this too shall pass.
Yeah, and that's why we do this. That's why we get up in the morning. It takes a considerable amount of research in advance to make sure that we are bringing you quality information. We are sharing people that are in this space that are doing it and want to help you. And again, to those of you who are looking for opportunities, looking for jobs, go ahead and first of all, join our mailing list so that you can learn more about those. But let us know, because we also are creating space for you on our show where we'll bring you on so you can just talk about your wins and your accomplishments, so that anyone who's watching it live or watching the rebroadcast, that they can connect with you. And I'm looking forward to us having those wins of helping people to find their place and their space.
Absolutely. So happy almost Friday to everyone. Be great.
That's it. So it's Liberty and Tea with breakfast and combos. And we will see you bright and early next week, Tuesday. So be safe, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.